Hello, this is Ellie Parks, and you're listening to the We Are Not Invisible podcast. Today, we are going to talk about having thoughts and big feelings, and what happens when you don't acknowledge and work through them. Have you ever had days when you're feeling a certain way, anxiety, sadness, or other strong feelings, and you can't pinpoint what it is about the day that is making you feel this way? Then for whatever reason, you look at a calendar and see the date. Realize it's the anniversary of an event that happened in your life. I'm not sure why the brain seems to unconsciously remember certain events that happen in our lives and reminds us of the feelings that it generated more than the actual memory itself. I like to journal when I have feelings that pop up. I think it helps me to get the feelings out in the open so that they are not stuck in my head all day. Other people may do other things like painting or drawing or just taking a hike in the woods. Now, I sometimes do those things also, but writing it down for me and seeing it in black and white releases the feelings. Doing art or hiking may help change my path for the moment and lift my spirits, but it does not help me recognize what I am feeling. I have been in and out of therapy since about 1992 when my son was first diagnosed with ADHD, and I was being tested as well. It was in therapy that I learned that the art of journaling. Before that, I did not have an outlet for my feelings, really. I would carry them around and collect them like people collect trading cards, and would pull them out occasionally to look at them, then stuff them back in the drawer and never really address them. And then I wondered why I was so emotionally overwhelmed all the time, and why I continued to have relationship issues. I later learned that children who grow up in homes where feelings are not allowed to be expressed have a really difficult time with big emotions. When I would get angry, it seems that I could not just yell or scream and get it out, but I would cry when I tried to express it. To be really honest, I have to actually sit down when I am upset and look internally at myself to try and figure out what it is I'm actually feeling at all. Sometimes I don't know if I'm angry, sad, anxious, or all of the above at the same time. This is where writing helps me to sort out what is going on. I just sit down and start writing to see where it leads me. When we are not allowed to express our feelings as children, we can't identify what it is that is bothering us. We bottle it up. It comes out sideways at times and gives others the appearance that we are emotionally unstable or unpredictable. Many times, feelings are the result of the crossing of our boundaries that we did not learn how to set because we were not allowed to have them, or the result from not being allowed to say no to something that we were uncomfortable doing as a child. Cognitive therapy is also good at helping us to work through our feelings. But writing is what we can do when we are not at our therapist's office, but at work or doing life in general. Therapy will also help us learn how to establish healthy boundaries with others so that we can take care of our own mental health. Being unable to express our feelings can lead to aggressive and passive-aggressive behavior because we never learned how to deal with any kind of confrontation when our boundaries have been crossed. We stuff it in and we do underhanded things behind closed doors instead of addressing it out in the open. We have all been the recipient of that behavior at some point in our life, whether at work or in our personal lives, or we have imposed it on others. I'll give an example of something from the receiving end and something I did in reciprocation. By the way, I didn't know what passive-aggressive behavior was until I went to therapy and found out I was both the recipient and the deliverer of it. My ex-husband would do something subtle when he thought I wasn't doing the laundry in a timely manner. He would move the hampers from his side of the room over to my side of the room. It was irritating, but I didn't know why until I went to therapy. I didn't know that was just subtle passive-aggressive behavior. Communication was not our strongest suit as a couple. Of course, when he would address something, it was usually in a condescending manner that I would internalize and then feel bad about. Then, because I was feeling like crap, I would run the vacuum at midnight when he was trying to fall asleep because, well, I didn't communicate how what he said to me made me feel or how we could work through this issue. It was like a vicious circle all the time between us. Neither one of us learned healthy communication. He learned loudness and sarcasm, and I learned to shut up and say nothing. Neither one of those were very healthy. I had a boss at work that when you called out for any reason, you had all the shit shifts on the following schedule. That is passive-aggressive behavior. Passive-aggressive behavior happens in all kinds of relationships, not just close ones. Something else that I learned pretty quickly is just because you are going to therapy and you are learning to express your feelings does not mean the person on the other end of the relationship will listen to you and respect you when you are expressing them. I'll give you an example. My ex had this habit when we were out driving and he saw someone weaving on the road. He would take it upon himself to address the person by trying to pull them over, or even following them to their home instead of calling the police. Yes, that is crazy, but that topic is for another podcast, not this one. When he would do that, I would feel all of this anxiety and fear that his behavior was going to get us into serious trouble or get shot. When I went to therapy and talked about it, my therapist helped me to address my feelings and encouraged me to express my feelings to my ex. We were going to a New Year's Eve party at a friend's house, and I dreaded it. Not the party, but the driving on New Year's Eve with him. It took me 2 weeks to come up with the courage to address this matter and how it made me feel when he would do this. When I finally did, his response was, "Well, that's taking the fun out of it." Yes, WTF. He totally dismissed my feelings about the subject. So now there were those feelings on top of the anxiety and the stress of the other feelings. I just shut down at that point. A healthy thing for both of us would have been therapy. But we both learned in our upbringing that we keep family stuff in the family and we don't talk about it to others. At some point, I was the one who decided that I didn't want to do this anymore. My unhealthy behavior added to his unhealthy behavior, made for a really unhappy relationship for both of us. I did unhealthy things in response to not having emotional support, and it was time to go. Let's get back to those feelings that pop up for us at the most unexpected times. For the past month, I had been feeling some sort of way, but I could not put my finger on it until I sat down and started writing. Last year at this time, another relationship ended in a really bad way. What was happening, though, the feelings surrounding the event were so strong, which really means that I haven't healed through all of them yet. Strong feelings create dark thoughts. Here's the thing I learned about thoughts from my therapist. I would have these dark thoughts and I would talk to her about them, and I had all this guilt about them. She looked at me and said, "Allie, they are just thoughts. They are not actions. Everyone has dark thoughts. And if they tell you otherwise, they're lying. You talk about them, you express your feelings around them, and that, my friends, prevents you from bringing dark thoughts to life." Holy crap, what a revelation. I no longer have guilt around thoughts because thoughts come and go. I deal with the feelings they generate, and I let them go. No jail time involved. I'm going to preach for a moment here. You have to deal with your feelings. You have to acknowledge them. You have to work through them. Otherwise, life will stay difficult for you, and you will be unhappy. You will do unhealthy things to yourself and to others. Feelings are powerful, especially when they go unhealed. You are responsible for your feelings from another's actions. It's your job to work them out in a healthy way and not create a circle of dysfunction with them. I am not in any kind of romantic relationship at all right now. That's really where I need to be. With still unhealed feelings, jumping into another relationship would repeat the dysfunctional process. I do say at times, no more relationships for me, but I have recently told myself when I have healed more, and if someone comes along, I am not going to write it off. That's progress. I thought I would give you an example of some thoughts surrounded by some feelings that have popped up for me. Yes, they are somewhat dark, but truthful. I'm going to tell you in story form because, well, that's what I do. I sat and watched in silence as he gathered all of his belongings together. He walked up the stairs to get his clothes and medication. I hated the sight of him. The sound of his breath as he struggled up the stairs increased my rage 1,000-fold. There was nothing I would have liked more than for him to trip and tumble down the stairs, landing with a thud at the bottom. I should have just thrown him out and thrown his stuff out the door behind him. I had so much anger that it was best that I said absolutely nothing at all, because I would have lost control and that would have been exactly what he wanted. Instead, I kept my composure and just sat on the sofa and watched. I took my key off of his key ring. When he had gathered all his stuff together, he hoisted it all at once. Pack mule. All his bags of crap that he brought with him each time. He never had a suitcase, always reusable shopping bags, as if he was a homeless person. The things we ignore and find amusing at the beginning of a relationship are the things we find repulsive at the end. I was repulsed by his very presence. I wished for every bad thing that could happen to another human being to happen to him. I wanted one of those blue ice things that fall from planes to his windshield on the way home. I wanted to go and spray paint revengeful stuff on the sidewalk in front of his house. I wanted to burn anything that belonged to him in a big bonfire and do a dance around it like the Druids did back in the day. I wanted to write a letter to his work and tell them what an asshole he is. I wanted to write a letter to his pastor and warn him of the predator he had in his congregation. I wanted to send a message to everyone on his list and tell them what an asshole he is. I wanted to put his picture up on websites that women have so other women don't date them. You name it, I wanted to do it. I didn't do any of it, but I allowed myself to feel all the hurt I was feeling and have all the dark thoughts that I wanted to have, guilt-free. I talked to my therapist, my step group, friends, and my coworkers. I wrote until my hands were sore. I am grateful to all of you for listening to me when I had to get it out, and for all of the support you gave me. When difficult things happen to you, find your people. You can't do it alone. You need emotional support from safe people in your life. Not everyone deserves to hear your story. Make sure you leave yourself a path to the light. Write, paint, sing, walk, hike, run, or whatever you want to bring yourself to life again. It may feel dark at the moment, but you will feel the sun on your face again, I promise. The biggest and most positive thing I did was start this podcast. I didn't care whether I had 1 listener or 1,000 listeners. It is a positive way for me to help others out there feel not so alone when they are going through a difficult time. I wanted the everyday person next door to know that others go through similar things. Sometimes we forget and feel very alone. Hearing others share stories allows us to embrace our humanness with our flaws and feelings. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. If you would like to come on and share some wisdom or just come and have some fun sharing your stories, please reach out to me at ellieparks2024@gmail.com.